Welcome to Home Dad Chat, brought to you by the National At Home Dad Network. My name is Brock,
My name is Danny.
and we are here to talk about life as stay at home dads. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
No, I don't want much. I even love handmade crafts made of macaroni. Come on now, you should know me. Times I might eat too much. No worry about my weight. Got the dad bod rocking on me. Sketches on my feet. Cargo shorts look good on me. I'm a dad, that's what I do.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the show. I am very excited to just be with Danny and talking about a new fun thing that we just found out about. We had someone from Instagram, right? That
Yep, it's on
reached out to
Instagram.
us. Yeah, that reached out to us, and we've always said, like, if you want to talk to us or anything like that, like, you can reach out to us on social media and stuff like that. And so, yeah, we had a gentleman that reached out, and actually, it was his publicist, I believe, is what it was. It's always
Hmm.
fun to say, like, a
Right?
publicist reached out to
We
us.
you have a person that does your things. Wow, that's amazing.
So yeah, so this person, they reached out to us. They had a lot of things that they have been doing over the past, golly, every bit of 25, 30 years worth of stuff. It all involves fatherhood. And we're gonna be meeting Allan Shedlin and talking with him about everything from a film festival for dads to his blog and all kinds of things. Um, Danny, you kind of got the first initial contact with him. What was it that they were talking about? Was it just those things,
Well,
or
I want to say that he sent us a bio, right? And I think as board members, you have to have a bio.
right?
You just do. You have to have something to say who you are, and that's fine. And I will say I have a lot of things going on. So I could conceivably put a good bit of stuff, and I might get 6 sentences, maybe. I mean, and then I feel like with 4 kids, it's all pretty succinct though. And again, Alan's been doing the daddying stuff
Yeah,
for decades, and I mean not just with his kids, but as a an influencer, for lack of a better term. And I'm not sure if he would like that term, but just being out there in the dad sphere, as it were, and making positive changes. So he sent his bio, and I mean, okay, so I have ADHD. So a lot of times when you see a huge paragraph of stuff, you just kind of go, okay, and you look away because you just executive dysfunction. I can't read that much material at once. It's not like reading a book or something. It's just like, this is about me. Oh, but I sat down and made myself read it because it was
yeah.
so interesting, right? Um, he began writing and education, parenting for major news outlets in the 80s.
Wow.
And now the way we got introduced to him is we were told about it's called the 3DF. And I never remember what or a D3F, excuse me, we'll screw that up. And it's Daddying's Film Festival and Forums. And what it is basically is a exposure of what it means to be a father, and in what Alan terms as daddying, which we're going to get into with him, which is different from just like that one time biological fathering a child.
Yeah.
He moves it into a lot of honestly what we do for a living,
Hmm.
being involved, being there for your kids physically, emotionally, all of that. And I think a lot of what they do with the film festival is to try to highlight that and
Yeah.
say, yeah, this is what being a father means or being a dad means. So I'm
Yeah,
looking
it's
forward to hearing more of it from him directly, you know?
definitely. Yeah, to me it seemed like it felt like a little bit like a Sundance Film Festival, like a one day deal where
Mm-hmm.
it was and it's just short about fatherhood and being a dad and
Yep.
things like that. And so that's pretty exciting because I think a lot of different people out there that are influencers have been doing things like that for a while. So it'll be interesting too to hear like who maybe he's been in contact with as well. And then maybe this is something too, like I know that, like you were saying, like, we've been kind of seeing this stuff happen, but maybe this will spur some guys on who have that background that we don't know about within the organization that would, want to maybe put something together to be able to submit it for next year's film
Yeah.
festival, because
And,
that would be
and
really cool.
anybody listening wants to make shorts for the organization,
Yeah.
and then we can just call them cargo shorts.
I love it. Love it. Oh my God. Can we just trademark that for real?
So anyhow, yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to say, and what he's doing with the film festival and where that's going. It is a virtual event, and it's also a live event. So there's two different things, and I believe it's
Cool.
live in Massachusetts.
Something. Yeah. We'll talk with him and find out exactly all that information when we come back and talk to the man himself. So we'll be right back. Become a member of the National At-Home Dad Network, an organization focused on providing advocacy, community, education, and support, connecting with households where dad is the primary caregiver of the children. We do this through our webinar and podcast series, mental health support groups, regular online social events, as well as our annual convention. The National At-Home Dad Network is a 100% volunteer organization. Without the generous support of its members and the community around it, we would not be able to continue the work that we do. Becoming a member gives you access to past convention speaker presentations, the ability to vote for board members annually, and ensures that the organization's fees and bills are in positive standing. Oh yeah, it should not go unmentioned that there is some cool swag headed your way if you decide to become a member. For only $35 a year, your membership provides you with the exclusive content only we can generate, and you'll be supporting an organization that benefits families all around the country and world. By advocating for them, offering them community, providing education and guidance, and supporting them to grow in their parenthood journey. And one last thing, if you contribute $500 or more, you will become a lifetime member. Not only will you receive everything already mentioned, but also a certificate recognizing your status and an exclusive National At-Home Dad Network challenge coin with our trademark logo, Dads Don't Babysit. So, what are you waiting for? Become a member today. All right, everybody, we are back with our guest, Allan Shedlin, and we're going to be talking about his Daddying Film Fest and Forum and all the different things that he's been involved in for many years since I've been born. So I want to make him feel a little bit older just because I was born in 1980, and that's in the 80s is when he started doing his stuff. So we'll discuss a little bit of that and his wonderful white beard that is just a magnificent grown thing and all that fun stuff. So yeah, Allan, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Thank you, Brock. Thank you, Danny. I'm flourishing is how I'm doing. How are you doing?
Doing well. I love the fact that before we got on, you were pointing out our brick wall background, and we were having quite a fun conversation about why the brick wall. So
Yeah, for the 7.5 people that watch us regularly on YouTube, we do have a brick background to all of our other listeners. We just put up a nice, it's just a kind of a nondescript brick wall with our logo on it. Brock made it. You can't tell. It looks like it's done by a professional.
Don't try to call me a professional. You're going to put me way too high up on a thing.
No, that was sarcasm. Look at this brick wall, man. They're all uneven. No. Anyway, so Allan, we were talking, and I want to get back to that story before we get too far away from it, because you did remark on all of us having a little bit of facial hair. And I will say you and Brock have beards. I do not. I have a goatee. That's just as good as it gets. You're welcome. You don't want to see me with a beard,
but
you
said that Fu Manchu at home dad.
Yeah, just a nice long one. That's like 6 inches long. Yeah. But Allan, you were mentioning about something about your facial hair and in being a father. I'd like to hear that story.
Okay. Yes, I was. So thanks again for allowing me to be on your podcast. Maybe today we'll have 8.5 people watch it.
Right.
There we go.
Maybe your kids and grandkids might tune in.
Yeah, they might. And they might not also. So speaking of backgrounds in terms of the brick wall, and then we'll go to the facial hair. But
yeah,
the background for me in the Daddying Film Festival and Forum was created by an 11-year-old kid in New York City. And let's see, I'll go this way. And usually when, you're about to do a film, you go lights, camera, action. And she said to me, "No, BG, it's lights, camera, daddying." And BG, by the way, stands for bonus grandpa. So we could get into that a little later too. But when my first daughter was born, I was just turned 24 years old. And I decided to celebrate by having a beer about a week or two afterwards when I had gotten a little sleep. But I went in to buy some beer, and I was told that I wasn't old enough to buy beer. The law was 18 and I was 24.
Mhm.
And when I produced my driver's license, they told me it was phony. Uh, I decided that I needed to grow a mustache to look older.
Mhm.
And so I did. And 3 years ago, I grew the beard. Of course, somebody pointed out to me, "Allan, if growing a mustache made you look older, how about at this point in your life, maybe you'll look younger if you shave that off?" But I actually am embracing my status as an elder as
Mhm.
opposed to being elderly. I make a big distinction between being an elder and
Yes.
being elderly. So, anyway,
Like it. I
that,
tell you, the amount of videos that I have seen of dads recently who have shaved their beards off for the first time and like, since they've had kids and the reaction of their children, I don't know that I recommend that. It does not go
Yeah.
well. I mean, I
I
remember my dad did that actually when I was a little kid, and my sister wanted nothing to do with him until he started getting stubble back on his face.
I look younger, but I look like a very young turtle who had its shell pulled off. That's what it's terrible. We do it. We have, I don't know if you're familiar with Movember,
I am.
changing the face of men's health. So you shave for that. It's the most common thing to do. And I did it 2 years ago. And I looked at myself and I went, I am never doing this again. If I get caught in a fire, I will get fake hair and put it on my face. This is ridiculous. I looked the worst I've ever looked in my life. And my wife, even she's like, I really love you. And I'm like, wait. What, what do you mean by that? She
Where
goes,
you going?
you can't do this. This is, you can't grow a beard and you can't shave it all off. You got to have a goatee and a mustache, something there, because it's just ridiculous. But I did look younger, looked very, very young. I looked like a baby. So that was that. But
Yeah.
nonetheless, let's move on to your Daddying Film Festival and Forum. That was the way we originally got introduced to you. I think it was 2 years ago now. We had received some information about it. And honestly, we don't have a really great ability to produce videos. We do produce some, but it's very few and far between. We're
Well, it's
still
more
looking to
like,
find those
yeah,
special guys that can just, they have that
that's
creative spark, and I'm not that guy. So
That's what I was gonna say. Like there are guys who have like abilities to do stuff like that. It's the time that it takes to
time to, yeah.
capture and edit and produce something. And they're all in the trenches. So it's
Mhm.
kind of that. I think that's what makes it most difficult. But we were saying before you had come on too, like because we did a little intro, that hopefully this maybe sparks some guys to see that there actually is a very viable place for the efforts that they would put in for their clip, their short, or as Danny calls it, their cargo short, to make it onto the film
Telling you,
festival.
trademarking that. The National At Home Dad Network cargo shorts. And just little.
So I should remind you, like I remind kids, to give me the same lousy excuse you guys just did. But we all have a production studio in our pocket. It looks a little like this. It's
True.
called
Mhm.
a smartphone. And we don't require professional quality videos to be sent in. But let's jump right into what it's about. So 20 years ago, little more than 20 years ago, a book proposal that I had written called Becoming the Dad You Want to Be, a Lifelong Process, was rejected by the eighth publisher that it was sent to by an agent. And I had spent almost 3 years creating this proposal, doing interviews with what I call the consumers of daddying, which are kids. So I did 28 focus groups in 3 countries with kids as young as 5 and as old as 21. And I followed that by also doing individual dadding interviews. At that point, probably I'd done about 50. And currently, up to now, I've done 205 one-on-one dadding interviews with dads as young as 16 and as old as 104, and everything in between from 20 different countries, every ethnic group, and so forth. I thought I had a pretty good outline for a book. And here's what my agent told me the publishers all said. Best book proposal we've ever seen. Perfect guy to write the book. But men don't read. Men don't buy books. No book on fatherhood has ever sold well, and no one ever heard of you.
Wow.
So
Gosh.
if you had said worst book proposal ever, we could have ended there.
Yeah.
Would have been okay. Wouldn't have felt good, but it would have been okay. And there is a little bit of an irony, or actually a large bit of irony, which is if they had done their homework, they would have discovered there had been a book on fatherhood that had sold very well. And it was written by Bill Cosby. That was when he was at the height of his fame, not his infamy. When he had the Cosby Show, and which was a really good show and raised a lot of, and his picture was on the cover. Now, what's interesting to me is, given your podcast and given as I listened to the last one in particular, where you spoke about the one that's gotten the most attention is the one on perimenopause.
Yeah, with my wife. Yep.
Yeah. And what's interesting about that to me is, had I gotten an opportunity to speak to the marketing directors, who were the ones who rejected it, the editors loved it. The marketing directors thought, no way. And we're talking about 21 years ago, actually.
Oh, wow.
So what I would have told the marketing director is, first of all, I know a few guys who can read. But also I would have told them that I didn't expect men to buy the book. I expect women to buy the book. I expect wives to buy the book. I expect daughters to buy the book, girlfriends, mothers-in-law, and to give it to a man. But
Yeah.
I was very discouraged, having done all the, research for it. And part of what came out of that research, both from the kids and from the dads, was what I refer to as a soulful sadness. So there was plenty of happiness, but there was an overwhelming soulful sadness that came out of it. And I couldn't not address that in some way. And so while I was feeling sorry for myself and determined to get something out in the world, and I wasn't sure how I was going to do it. Remember, it's 21 years ago, before podcasts, before, a lot of internet stuff. And I saw a movie called My Architect, A Son's Journey. And it was one of the 3 Academy Award nominees as Best Documentary in 2003. And it was created by Nathaniel Kahn, who didn't know much about his dad. And he decided to find out about his dad, who was the most famous architect I had never heard of. His name is Louis Kahn. And by studying his architecture and interviewing the people who had commissioned him to do the buildings. And boy, did he find out a lot about his dad that he had no idea about. And I'm not going to spoil it, because I really urge you to see it, and it is available online somewhere. I cried through about half of it. It really touched me. And one of the thoughts I had was, gee, I wish my dad had been sitting next to me watching this movie. Because if he had, we could have talked about some of the issues that came up in the movie that would have been hard for me spontaneously to bring up. Unfortunately, my dad had passed away the year before, so that wasn't going to be possible. But that's when I had the initial idea back in 2003 of using film that way as a catalyst for opening discussion between fathers and their kids and kids and their fathers. Um, I got distracted. I have ADD. I got distracted.
Guilty.
Right.
Best way to live.
I,
Fast lane all day.
do you think it's contagious? Do you think you get it from your kids? No, you don't.
No.
Oh no.
I definitely gave it to my kids, but
Yeah, there you go. So I got distracted by actually doing programs using film with a whole bunch of different groups of dads in penitentiaries, at the World Bank. I wonder if those two things are related. With veterans groups, in Head Start centers, in schools, and corporate headquarters all over. And in many of them using films or pieces from films to get discussions going.
Mhm.
And then when I decided to stop shaving 3 years ago, and I looked in the mirror and there was this really old dude looking back at me. And he said, Allan, whatever happened to that idea for a film festival, man? You're getting older. You better not wait any longer. And so 3 years ago, this will be year 3 of the Dadding Film Festival and Forum, I decided time to do it.
Nice.
My background is as an educator. I am a dad of 3 and a granddad of 5, and a lot of bonus kids and a lot of bonus grandkids. And so I just decided you got to do this now. One of my mottos, which doesn't go too well with ADD, is leap and a net shall appear.
I like that.
Yeah. And so I did.
That seems like
Not
the motto
knowing,
of most kids too.
yeah, exactly.
this will be fine. Let's go.
Yeah, sure. What the hell? So why not get into it? Now, I knew who had a net. And it's an organization it happens to be based in Santa Fe, but it's an international organization that's now in its 31st year, and it's called Kids First, but it's also known as the Coalition for Quality Children's Media. And I had worked with and knew the person who founded that 31 years ago. We had worked and been connected for about 20 years. And I called her up. I said, Rani, you know about film festivals. I know zero. Work with me on this. And she said, sure. And so year 1, we did the Kids First Daddying Film Festival. It was all virtual. And I was blown away that we got submissions from 17 different countries. And it was only for kids to create videos on the theme of a letter to my father or father figure.
Oh, cool.
And
Nice.
you could submit videos of up to 7 minutes. Most of them were 2 to 3 minutes. And we divided it into 4 distinct age categories or grade categories. So we did elementary school, middle school, high school, and undergraduate college. One of the things I've learned, and boy, have I learned a lot, and still a lot more to learn, is there are 3,000 film festivals in the world. There
Wow.
are none that focus on the importance of positive father involvement.
Yeah,
And
I mean, it seems like your film festival, is it kind of like a Sundance, kind of it's a 1 day film festival, but it feels like just from what I was reading and seeing, like it seems like it's got sort of that Sundance, like people that are just kind of moving into this region of videoing and capturing things and getting it out there. And like you said, it seems like it's pretty raw. Like it's not anything that you guys are looking for something to be all sparkly and crisp, but you're trying to grab like the actual content of based on like what you're looking to get out of it. Like you said, like the kids, like giving you 2 minutes of what they thought of their dad. Is that kind of the idea of the film festival?
It is basically the idea, Brock, and I'm happy you picked up on that because, most people measure the success of their film festival by how many films they show in how many different venues over how many different days. Our forum, which is the live part of it, so I mentioned the first year was all virtual. Last
Mhm.
year we added a live part of it, which we did in Albuquerque and Santa Fe. We did back-to-back days, actually half days. So it's only a half day. And this year will only be a half day as well. But we're already thinking that in 2025, it will probably be at least a day and maybe a day and a half, and I'll explain why. So our metric of success is not the traditional metric of success. What it's about is the original idea for doing a film festival, which is using films as a way to enrich discussion and get into deeper discussion and confront issues that a lot of us have with our dads and a lot of dads have with their kids. So what we do is, and maybe I have to backtrack a second to say how it works first and then how we do it. So, and it's evolving, and it's year 3 that this is, so it may look very different next year.
Yeah.
So what we did last year is we also opened it up to fathers and father figures. And I want to emphasize the father figure part because not all of us are lucky enough to have dads like you two guys. Not all of us are lucky enough to have exactly the dad we want to have. And so dad figures, people who play fatherly roles. It might be a grandfather, it might be an uncle, a big brother, a minister, a coach, a teacher, you name it. So it's definitely opened up to not just fathers, but people who play fatherly roles as well. So we opened it up to adults and to independent filmmakers. We actually received more films from adults and independent filmmakers last year than kids, and that's what's happening this year as well.
Yeah.
To do it. So another thing that makes it unique, is not only is the topic unique, but when the films come in, they're judged by children, by students of the same age as came in, and we do a training
Nice.
for the kids on judging films, not reviewing films, but judging films.
Mhm.
And what they do is when the films come in, they narrow down the 10 best films according to their ratings in each of those 4 different age categories. And then when we have 10 semifinalists, we send those on to people in the entertainment and education fields. And they narrow it down to 5. And those 5 are put online for a week, and the public gets to vote on which film is the best. The 5 finalists in each of those age groups earns $250. The winner earns another $250 and receives not an Oscar, not a Golden Globe, not an Emmy. They receive an Atticus.
Is that bird?
Okay.
Is that the bird on top of that? I seen
That
the.
is,
Is
so
that what that is? An Atticus?
it's a mockingbird.
Okay.
So Atticus,
Atticus Finch.
right? Atticus Finch. So
Yeah.
it's not a finch.
Yeah.
It's a mockingbird. So Atticus Finch, for the listeners who don't know who he is, Atticus Finch is basically considered to be the best portrayal of a father figure in literature and the movies. Movie based on the book in 1960.
And just so everybody knows too, the book is To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah.
So
To
just to
Kill a
clarify, because again, a
Like you
lot of dads
said,
don't read. you know.
Yeah, no, that's
I guarantee we have members right
Which
now
I
who
was gonna say,
just
yeah,
switched and just like, Danny, you're getting an email from me. I know what that, you didn't have to tell us what that book was
yeah. Well, I was
because
gonna say
we
like
do
the
have a lot
book
of
club.
readers.
I'd say the book club alone. Like we have a
Yeah.
book club within the organization. So there's a group of guys that they pick books and read them together. So that's another reason when you were saying like, oh, men don't read. I was like, oh, that's such a funny thing for a
Well, 30
publisher to
years ago,
say.
yeah.
we
Well,
weren't a market. We were not a market. But anyway, Alan, I love that you chose that. And when you said the Atticus for me, I was like, wow, that's a very odd. And my first thought was it must be someone that had contributed to in some way the film festival or something of that nature. It was like maybe someone that inspired you or you aspired to be like. And my second thought when we started talking about like, oh, that's not who it is, but it is. Because, like you said, Atticus Finch being that role model for a very compassionate, caring father, even in the midst of everything else going on in the book, that he made such a excellent role model that I love that you use that because he is, I mean, aspirational for me. I would love to be able to fill that role so well. So excellent work, I think, choosing
Yeah,
that one.
so last year, we had films submitted from 21 different countries. So Lord only knows
Hmm.
what will happen, this year and as we move forward. And what that indicates to me is that the theme is a universal theme. And this year, we don't have just the single prompt of a letter to my father or father figure. Um, and by the way, so when we added the dads could do films or adults could do films, and notice I say adults could do films. I'm not saying creating adult films. That's a whole other
Hmm.
category, which we're not.
Different kind of daddy.
Yeah,
yep,
and we ain't moving in that direction. Um, sorry, guys. But so this is just a very different way of looking at it. We did, you mentioned, Danny, that you thought maybe Atticus was somebody who had made a contribution, and so we decided to call it that. Last year, we did have somebody who made a contribution to create an award. It's called the Newberger Roy or Newberger Award, and it was a contribution from a woman who wanted to name an award after her dad. And her
nice.
dad had been orphaned as a 12-year-old and became an absolutely extraordinarily wonderful dad.
Mm,
So part of the idea for that was that we don't want to, because when I mentioned the various places I've done the workshops on becoming the dad you want to be, when you do it in a penitentiary, 85% of the men in penitentiary come from homes that didn't have a dad.
right.
Hmm.
And some of the ones who had a dad wish they didn't have a dad at
Hmm.
terms of abuse and alcoholism and things like that. So one of the things we talk about is you are not condemned because you had that experience to repeat that, even
Mm,
though often it happens, but you're not condemned to repeat that. So here's a
Yeah.
dad who was orphaned at 12, didn't have a live at home dad, but became an absolutely wonderful dad. So that's a prize that does earn money for a dad film. This year, we've had a second prize that will have a cash award. It's contributed by an extraordinary organization. Maybe you guys know it, called Equimundo.
Ecumindo.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. So Equimundo is all about gender equity and it's about men caring. And so
Hmm.
the award that they are financing this year, $500, is an award that encourages films that show men in a caring role.
Yeah,
Nice.
we've had interactions with them over the years, and we've actually had folks from their organization come and speak at Home Dad Con, so we know them very
They're
well.
great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gary Gary Barker.
Gary
They're
Barker.
yeah.
Gary.
I'm horrible with names. But yeah, we got on a call with him and one of his associates, and they were amazing. It was shortly after they'd put out their annual, or not their annual, but their survey for this year, their study, and it was just so much eye-opening information that they brought out, both about the internationally about fatherhood, then also fatherhood in America. And we had the opportunity to talk with them, and it was just it was almost like you're getting together with people you went to school with. You're just kind of, oh, hey, yeah, how you been? And just all the things that they've got going on and all the things that they've accomplished. It's so inspiring. And I'm really glad that they're involved with D3F. Is that it?
Yeah, so
D3F? Yeah, okay.
D3F.
Hashtag
So
D3F.
right.
I'm
So
working on it.
the D is Daddy, and the 3F was Film Festival and Forum.
Nice.
Nice. Now, I was
all-
looking on your website, and you have sort of like you've got submissions open still for. Man, just give me a second. I'm gonna edit that out. So I'm looking on your website, and you've got information here on how to get involved with the film festival. And one of the things I saw in here is that you guys are taking submissions up until March 4th, which I think this will come out just right around or maybe just after that submission. So, but along with that, though, you've got the dates for the virtual festival and the live forum festival, which previously you were saying was out west. And this year it's in Philadelphia. Is that correct? Is that, I see that here?
Yeah.
May
You did,
17th.
yeah, you did your homework, Brock. Thanks.
We try.
Okay. So, first of all, the bulletin is that the late submission fee is March 25th.
Oh,
So,
great. Okay. So if somebody does hear this and wants to put something
so
together, they
you
have
have
time.
almost a month.
Okay.
And a little secret, which we, since only 7 people watch the podcast, I'm safe with this secret. But we'll probably extend it till April 15th. We don't want to let people know that, too many people know that now because you and I know what will happen on April.
Procrastination.
Right. On April 14th, we'll get a whole bunch of submissions, and that will overwhelm the judges, and we won't have time.
How perfectly set that you would put that at the same time as when taxes are due, which is definitely the high point of everybody's procrastination.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, so March 25th is a good date to shoot for. So yes, there's plenty of time to get something in.
Okay.
But the themes this year are, yes, a letter to my father or father figure. And since we've opened it up to dads, the opposite would be a letter to my daughter or a letter to my son. So what I'm about to share with the other prompts, there is an opposite. So one of the prompts is men caring, and an example of that, because we've already received a couple of films, is a film submitted by a dad about taking care of his dad, who is not able to take care of himself at this point. So that would be a good example of men caring.
Yeah.
And the other prompts are the most fun thing I ever did or wish I could do with my father or father figure. So that's the second prompt. If I could make one dream come true for my father or father figure, and again the opposite if a dad is doing it. So those are some of the prompts. But as you said, Brock, it's all online. And it's www.daddyingfilmfest.com. Pretty easy to do, to submit, actually very easy to do. There is a set platform that you submit it. There is a submission fee. And the reason I'm mentioning it, the first year we did not have a submission fee. I was told we were nuts. You have to have a submission fee. I said, no, it's for kids. Kids don't have to put a submission fee. But what we learned after year 1 is it was probably a good idea to put a minimal submission fee, because if you paid, you're more likely to actually send something in.
Yeah.
The submission fee is very minimal, but anybody anybody, either dad or kid or anybody who wants to submit a film. If that's a problem, just let us know and we waive the fee. So we've already done that.
Nice.
And
I am curious.
Yeah.
So this is in Philadelphia, which isn't too far of a drive for me. What I'm curious is like, so with this being an event that's 4 hours long, it says 4 to 8 p.m. on the 17th of May in Philly on that Friday afternoon. What would people that are coming to the film festival, what would they um be like experiencing, and what kind of things, I guess, like go on during that time?
So the reason it's in Philly this year, one of the initial ideas with the film festival is that we would move it from state to state annually so that we could also shine a spotlight on the film industry in a given state. But what I learned after doing it or what we learned after doing it in New Mexico, is that it would mean that every year we need to create a brand new network in a state and learn the culture of that state. And that seemed to be ridiculous. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and
Boy,
overwhelming.
I kind of wonder. We've been doing that for almost 30 years now.
Yeah.
we home dad cons in pretty much a different state every year.
Mm-hmm.
But I understand what you mean, though.
Yeah, so we were invited to bring it to Pennsylvania. I've done a good deal of work with a particular organization in Pennsylvania, which has accomplished now something really quite extraordinary, which is to have in their legislature, in their legislation now, where you have to, it's one of 5 states where you actually have to pay attention to legislation you're creating in terms of what is its impact on fathers. Will it prevent fathers from X, Y, and Z? What makes Pennsylvania unique is it's the only state where what's written in to legislation is that there is a citizens committee that will make sure that that happens. And so I was real happy to be invited by Pennsylvania, because it's only a 2.5 hour drive from where I live in Maryland, as opposed to a 4.5 hour to 5 hour flight to New Mexico. If it is as successful as we expect it to be in Philly, it will remain in Philly moving forward. Because any good film festival, whether it's Sundance, as you mentioned, Brock, or any other, is usually at the same time in the same place each year. And so, but what to expect when you make the drive to Philly is we'll begin with a welcome performance from a singing group from the high school for performing arts in Philly. Then we're in the process of figuring out who's going to be our MC. So it'll be somebody known in Philly for sure. And then we will show the 5 winning films, the 4 that the kids did, and then the probably the 2 that the dads did. And after we've shown the films, we break into small discussion groups with fathers or father figures, adults, and their kids about the themes that came to our attention in the different films. So yes, it's a very, very different kind of film festival. The space, it'll be at the main branch of the public library. And the space only will accommodate 150 people. So we're not interested in drawing, thousands of people. If there is major interest beyond that, in the following year, we will find a different space, and we'll probably almost definitely will expand The time of the festival, we're beginning to think it needs to be at least a full day. And the reason is because we have gotten a number of feature film length submissions this year that have a lot to do with mental health issues that have been submitted by dads. And since that is a really important issue for us to be looking at, what does your shirt say,
Danny's
Daniel?
shirt says mental health
It's mental health
awareness.
awareness
Yeah.
from
So, well,
uh
we've
but
gotten a number of films actually about grieving dads about their kids' suicide. Uh,
mhm.
and it's not exactly an uplifting theme, but it's an incredibly important theme. And as we know, it's one of the biggest crises we have at the moment is the mental health issues, especially around teenagers. Um, excuse me. So that's why we're thinking of expanding it next year. And one of the things you'll see on the website is we have what we call a circle of friends. And actually, the At Home Dads Network has been a friend as of last year. Um, and so all it means when you're a friend is you let your network know that this exists. And we
Mhm.
we add your logo to our circle of friends, and then we do a spotlight once a week on one of our friends. So that's what it's about.
That's very cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I think that that it sounds like a great just 4 hours honestly spent together with a bunch of dads. Uh, the number two with it being the size that you're talking about, I definitely could see that growing, like especially with the fact that you're getting so many more submissions and things along those lines. So I mean, gotta love when things take off and the success of it, draws more people and grows it. Like that's always it comes with both its headaches and its excitements all at the same time. So I mean, we've we have experienced plenty of that. I've been around us planning like home dad cons for the past few years, and it's like it has its ebb and flow of different things. You're reaching out to people, and so, but it's always exciting. So it sounds like a great event, and I know a lot of dads that live in that general region, right there in the Philadelphia, New York area. That especially the guys in New York are always like talking about. They travel back and forth. Or guys from Philly travel into New York, so just that whole commuter area there has got a draw. So hopefully, the guys that are listening to this, and you said something about bringing your kids too, like
Oh,
with as well.
absolutely.
So I think
Yeah.
that's a really neat portion of it as well, is that it's an
Mhm.
opportunity for you to bring the kids along, because I think a lot of times like dads are like, well, I'd like to go, but I can't bring my kids with me because of whatever. But this is actually an opportunity to bring them along and let them see maybe just some other indication, especially if you've got a wonderful 11-year-old like I have, who loves to think that his little bubble is all there is in the world, and trying to get him to understand that there are other elements out there and kids going through other things, and life isn't as bad as he might perceive it to be in some ways from time to time. So I think that that's just a great resource for
Well,
dads in that way.
and Philly's a really fun city to visit, a lot of good things to see
Mhm.
in Philly. And part of if you look at our sort of poster for the festival, you'll see that what we've done, because I'm a little bit of a smartass, and have a different way of thinking about things. So you're probably aware that maybe about a year ago, when they were having trouble picking a new Speaker of the House, and it took 15 votes to pick a new Speaker, and they abandoned all the rules on the floor of the Senate. And one of the senators, actually, one of the congressmen from California, came to the floor wearing his baby.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sling. Yeah, I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah,
And
we've had some interactions with the Dad Caucus, just trying to get them involved. And actually, one of our close podcast friends, Matt Lofi, who he is one half of the Dad Ass podcast. They actually had him on the show. So yeah, we definitely know that story.
Yeah.
yeah,
It's a
so
great story.
when I saw him on the floor, I had this weird thought. I wonder if George Washington ever wore his baby. Uh, and one of the things I learned is George Washington did not have any biological kids. When he married Martha, she had two kids. So he did bring up
Oh,
her two kids, and then he had a lot of bonus kids and grandkids and nieces and nephews. Um, but I had a friend and I called him up and I said, "Do you have Photoshop? And do you know anything about AI?" And so he created portraits of John Adams, George Washington, and Ben Franklin wearing their babies.
Oh
nice.
wow.
And they're all smiling. And you've never seen any of those three guys smile.
No.
Where
So
where is that photo available?
So that's on the website,
Okay.
and I'll be happy to email you also a copy of it. But so we decided that since Philadelphia was the place of where the founding fathers signed the Constitutional Convention, we're calling them the founding daddies wearing their babies. Uh, and we are making May 17th, Philadelphia will be transformed from the city of brotherly love to the city of fatherly love.
Nice.
Like that.
So that's part of the whole piece of it. And that was, it's about time. 237 years ago is when they signed that thing. It's about time they're founding daddies. And try to imagine how different the country might be if we thought about it that way back then.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
Interesting.
yeah,
Nice. Well, I got to tell you, Alan, I'm really excited to see what happens this year. I'm not going to be able to make it to Philadelphia myself, or I doubt it. But I love that you're doing it there. We have a fairly large City Dads group in that area too.
that would be
Um,
great.
and hopefully they can, that's not our organization, just to be clear. But City Dads and Fathering Together are now partners. And I think Fathering Together is actually going to take over City Dads. But anyway, so it's a group of dads that meet monthly and with their kids and without their kids to do things that, dads would like to do. And I'm definitely going to push that to them and see
Yeah.
if maybe they would get some interest in it, because that's something, local that they could do, especially if it tends to be every year, that they could do it every year. Right. It'd be
Yeah,
fantastic for them. But
and and they and their kids perhaps together can make a video
mhm.
and submit it. The other thing to mention, Brock talked about your annual event where people gather. So there are two or three other things we're doing this year. We're curating a group of films and creating a discussion guide together with them, which we want to make available to conferences, conventions, and so forth, so they could use the films as a way to get into these kind of discussions. So the Responsible Fatherhood Clearinghouse, the National Response, has already said that they would like to be able to use that, which is great because it means we're really going to do it if they want to use it. And so some of the films just prompt. I'll just mention one of them to you. And by the way, on the website is the archive of the film that won in the last 2 years. So
All right.
one that would be fun for you to watch, and it's about 3 minutes long. I think it's 3 minutes. It might be up to 7. And it was submitted by a dad in Australia. And it's called Dad for Hire. And what I love about the film is that it's serious, but it's got a great, actually, Australian sense of humor. So what it is, it's a interview of an 18-month-old child interviewing her dad for the job of being her father and being her dad. And it's absolutely captivating and amazing. And so the filmmaker is Aaron Scully. And when we spoke to Aaron, we said, Aaron, how did you get an 18-month-old to act like that? How many takes was it? And he said one. And we said one. He said, yeah, one for her and 52 for me. So we just filmed her doing her 18-month-old thing. And then I had to film myself 52 times to fit into so that it looks like, I was being actually interviewed.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness, that's hilarious.
It is hilarious. And it's like, okay, so I need to feed you 3 meals a day and snacks. Yes. Okay. I have to change your diaper or whatever they call it in Australia.
Mhm.
I have to be available 24/7. I have to, and by the way, how much do I get paid? How much vacation time do I get? How much? So it's really perfect for the work you do and the work I do it's kind of tongue in cheek,
I
but
like it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
it's serious. So if you look at no other film in the archive, look at Dad for Hire.
I think we'll definitely take a look at that, just because we tend to look for things to fill time in between movement of like main sessions and breakout sessions and stuff. So it might be something that the planning committee could look at to maybe use as a way to fill that time, especially right before something starts, to kind of draw everybody into watching like a short clip type of deal and getting them interested in it. So yeah, I love that idea definitely of taking a look at some of those. So we'll definitely be doing that. Alan, this has been a great conversation. We're kind of up against time on things, and we know that you also have some things you got to get done today as well. So we want to honor that time. But it's been a privilege to speak with you, and I'm very excited for what this film festival is lining up and what it's presenting to a lot of people. And it's just exciting because there's so many things that have not really been spotlighted about fatherhood, or giving platform for kids to even speak candidly about their dads,
Mhm.
and that seems like this is what is going on there. And so I'm just really happy that this forum's around, and I wish you nothing but the best as you continue to grow it.
Thank you, Brock, and thank you, Danny. Can I mention one other thing before we
Mhm.
sign off? So,
Sure,
and
go for it.
going back to um, what you said about the perimenopause piece being the most watched piece, and why that's really important to me is that one of the things that we talk about a lot is that daddying does not occur in a vacuum.
Right.
Daddying occurs within a broader social context, both at the micro level, which is what happens in our homes, and the macro level, which is what happens in the broader culture. And so when I came up with the term, when I coined the term dadvocacy, it happened to be when I was flying back from Albuquerque to Baltimore. And the term just came to me during the flight, dadvocacy. And I happened to be sitting next to a young woman on the plane who was reading a textbook on gender issues. And I usually don't talk to strangers on planes. I actually love being completely anonymous and just being in my own head on a plane, but I couldn't resist. And I said to her, if you don't mind my interrupting you, I see what you're reading, and I just came up with this word, and I'm really interested what your reaction to this word is. And I said, dadvocacy. And within 10 seconds, she said, it must be against women.
Hmm.
And I looked at her and I said, I can't tell you how disappointed I am that that is your reaction. Why, if you are for something, in your mind does it mean you're against whatever in your mind is the opposite? You will notice that I'm wearing a pink cap and it says daddying. That ain't a coincidence. And so part of I mentioned I was an educator by background, so I couldn't resist. And we talked about how all the research shows when dads are positively involved in the lives of children, all measures of social well-being go up, including measures for moms and including things that happen at home. And so paying attention to what goes on during perimenopause and understanding the broad context and the interrelationship between what goes on at home that either encourages or discourages involved daddying is really, really important to shine a spotlight on. So thank you for doing that. And I'm sure that's part of the reason that particular podcast had the kind of viewing it did.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely. And also too, just so everybody knows, we will have links to a lot of the things, like everything that was spoken about in here, so that you can find more information out about the film festival and the website and things along those lines. Allan, again, thanks so much for being on the show, and we look forward to seeing how others get involved with you, and definitely watching the shorts that and videos that people are going to be sending through. So, like I said, all the success in the world to you, and we hope to talk to you maybe in person sometime at a Home DadCon event. But until then, we'll talk to you all next week.
Okay, and we'll see you, Brock, in Philadelphia this year, and we'll see you, Danny, there next year.
It's possible.
Okay, take
Definitely.
good care of yourselves, and thanks for what you do.
Of course.
Perfect.
Good night, everybody.
I'm a dad, that's what I do.